Okay, so I don't remember which one this was. I think it's number 2. And I wanted to start with this one because I think it's easiest. So you normally start with your intercepts first. So I'll go ahead and do that. You have an x-intercept at -3, 1, and 3. We know that that's going to be on the x-axis. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3. 1 and 3. And we also have points on this one. Your points are going to be where x equals -1. We have a point at -3. So 2, 3. And then we have a point where x is 5. We have y at 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, right there. We also have this, the f prime. It's gonna signify a max or a min on your graph somewhere along this vertical line. So wherever that x-axis, that x value is, you're gonna have a change of direction or max and min at some point. So in this case, it's f when x equals -1. The y value is 0. So I'm gonna mark that off. It's gonna be right about here, and I'm gonna do that little sign she does. It's like a half circle, meaning somewhere along this point there's gonna be a change in direction. I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be right here because we have a point that lines up here. So this is either gonna be minimum or it's gonna be maximum. So we've done these 3 points. And next I want to look at the vertical asymptote, which is at x equals 2. So x equals, it's going to be an x value. It's going to be right along here. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to take a look at the limit. Your limit is going to tell you whether that be on this side approaching positive infinity or this side approaching negative infinity. It's going to tell you approximately where you can start your graph on each side. So this one says there's a limit as x approaches negative infinity, which is going to be this side, at a y value of 3, at y equals 3. So this side at y equals 3, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. It's going to be right around here. Of course, this is not an asymptote, and you're not going to draw this on a graph when you're going to turn it in. But I just don't want us to forget that we're going to have this arrow where our graph is going to start. Our line is going to start on this side, approaching 3. Now we're going to decide later on if it's going to be approaching 3 from the top, going like this, or from the bottom, going like this. We're going to find that out by looking at the increasing and decreasing intervals. So we've done the limit, we can cross that off. The next thing I'm going to look at is the increasing and decreasing intervals. I think the easiest way to depict this is color on a graph and blocking off sections. And doing this multiple times by using these color blocks is going to help you visualize where exactly on your graph you're going to have those increasing and decreasing sections. It might seem childish or a lot of work, but you're not going to mess up. And I think that's all you care about. So the first one is going to be where x is greater than 0. So it's going to be increasing, essentially. You're going to have an increasing interval from -1 to 2. And I'm going to do my increasing interval in orange. So from -1 to 2, like right here. if it were me, I would color that in until you get a hang of it. I would color that in, block it off on the whole graph. For the sake of this, I'm gonna go ahead and do that actually, just so we have a visual of it. Okay, so -1 and 2, and then we also have an increasing interval from 2 to infinity. Of course, we do have this asymptote here, which is why that is a union sign, and technically why they make us stop this interval. It doesn't continue because, of course, there is an asymptote right here. So it's 2 to infinity, so just the other side of this. I'm going to leave a little gap so we can notice that asymptote. So essentially this whole part of the graph is going to be increasing, and I did that in orange, so I'll cross that off in orange so we can remember which one's increasing and a decreasing interval. The next is going to be your decreasing interval. That's when it is less than 0, and this is going to be from -infinity to -1. So essentially all the way out here from the left to right here at this -1, where we have this line right here, we have the point here and then that change of direction or max and min right there. I'm going to do that in blue. No, it's too dark. Pink, I guess. Okay. So we've set up our increasing and decreasing intervals. Now we have concavity, and the way I like to do concavity is I like to draw the generalized symbols for an upwards concavity and a downwards concavity right here along the axis. I would do this whole graph as a small sketch somewhere on your page, not, of course, on your final submission. So on your sketch, I would do the colors. I would do the really dramatic points. I would do noting that limit, and I would also do what I'm about to do, the waves of concavity. It's just, so I'm just going to do it along the x-axis, and it's just going to give you that visual of where your graph is going to be concave up and where it's going to be concave down. So we have a concavity, an upwards concavity from -3 to 2, and I drew it up here. Concave up is going to be like a U shape. So on the graph, I'm going to have a U shape from -3 to 2. So that's what, -3 to 2. So my concavity is going to be like this. And then I also have 4 to infinity. So 4 to infinity, my concavity is also going to be down. So that leaves us with, let's do this in green. This is going to be where your concavity is down, aka less than 0. It's going to be on -infinity to -3. So I know it's going to look like a rainbow for down, from -infinity to -3. So of course over here all the way to right there at that point. So that's going to be like this. I don't want you to think of this like this has to be above the axis and this has to be below the axis. I just want you to imagine that we're not talking about what's below and what's above. I want you to imagine the movement of your pencil, whether this line be happening down here or up here. I just want you to think of the motion of your pencil, not the axis at all. All you need to think of is what points along this axis does my concavity change. I really want to stress that I'm not saying that concave down is going to be up there at the top of the x-axis, and I'm not saying that up is going to be at the bottom. I'm just trying to say your pen is going to move in this motion. So the last one is concave down from 2 to 4. And that's right here. So that's a lot of extra time and steps, but I don't think you can get it wrong if you take all the time to do all of that. And that was done in green. So I draw my graphs, and I'd advise you to do your graphs from, like you're reading, from left to right. So when I start over here, of course, I'm going to start at my limit. But how do I know if my limit is if I'm going to be approaching from the top or from the bottom? So the way I know that is I have to find what the increasing or decreasing interval is. So this is pink. I've highlighted that in pink. So on pink, we have a decreasing interval from -infinity to 1. So I know that I'm going to be going down right here. So I have to be going down, but I can't cross this. I'm treating it like an asymptote right here, just for the ends of my arrow. So I can't approach from above it because I'd cross it. So if I'm going downward, I have to start from below this asymptote and approach it from the bottom. So I know I'm going to be doing a downward motion. So I'm going to draw my arrow here because I know I'm going to start. And I've already done, now at this point, I've done the part with our limit. Then we're going to be going down. And at some point, we're going to have to cross these 2 points. So we're going to be traveling downward, and we are going to hit, we're tracing that downward concavity. Well, I don't want to say trace because I in no means knew that I'd be following that direction. But you see where my concavity is in that downward motion. And then I know that I'm going to be, at this point, I'm still decreasing because I'm still in the pink. And I need to hit this point. So I know that I'm going to be going down because I've annotated that my concavity is downward at this point. So I'm sorry, down here, and then I changed to up here. And we have this point here signifying a max or min. So we know that we're going to be changing direction and increasing on this interval. Again, we signified in our orange that was increasing. So I know that I need to start increasing here, and I need to hit this point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, shit. And I'm going to hit that point, and we have this asymptote. So we're still increasing, but we're not approaching it. And we've gone as close as we can. So just to review, we were in a decreasing interval here. We knew that we had to start at this limit. We knew that we had to start below the limit and not above it because we were going to be going in a downward direction. If we can't cross it, we couldn't have started from above it. So started here. I had notated that my concavity was going to be down. So I followed this downward motion. I knew I had to hit this x-intercept. So I hit that x-intercept. I knew that I had to hit this point, but my concavity changed. So I kind of had to change the direction of my line a little bit. You can see where I changed and looped down. So right at this point, I changed direction. I hit this point, and all of a sudden my decreasing interval turned into an increasing interval, annotated by the orange. So I went up in an upwards motion, still following that upward concavity. I hit this x-intercept, and I followed as long as I can in this increasing interval along this asymptote. So I've done this side of the graph. So what I need to look at now is what's going on the other side of the graph. And this is a little extra, and you don't have to do this, but I do want to go ahead and cross off what I've already done so I don't. Okay. So the only intervals I need to be paying attention to now, I've left out, not crossed off. So again, I'm going to start with increasing and decreasing. There's no limit to guess off of at this point, but that is okay, because we can just follow the concavity that it's going to give us and the increasing and decreasing interval. So again, I'm going to start with the increasing interval. It's going to be from 2 to infinity. So basically the rest of this graph is going to be going upwards. It's going to be an upward motion. So I'm essentially going to go in this direction. I know that I'm starting from the bottom because my concavity is downward. So I know that I'm going to be going along this motion. I'm going to follow that asymptote, and I'm going to hit this point. I can see how when you get to this point, you wouldn't know where to come from. But what I would say is just look at your interval. You know you're going to be going in this general direction. You know you're going to need to hit this point. So you can't come from the top. That would be decreasing interval. So I'm going to have you follow along that asymptote, maintaining that concavity. And right along this point, our concavity is going to change. We're still going to be doing an increasing interval, however, so we can't do an automatic turnaround. We can't do an automatic turnaround and come back up because technically that would be a decreasing interval right in this little spot. So I've brought my line up, and I'm just going to do a slight concavity change, just a slight change. So now we have an upwards concavity, and we're going to continue on an increasing interval from now until infinity. So you can literally take your line up however you want. To trace that in black, I did something along this line. This is still increasing. I went through that point, and then I went up. And I'll do the same for over here. And that is all. That's your completed graph. Of course, I would do this as a sketch, and then your final answer, just copy it without the color and without the mess when you do your tests and your quizzes.